Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet-Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet-Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast.
That's us.
It's two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types. We have a little bit of a silly time, do some voices, have a catch-up on media, what we have consumed in the week.
There it is, there's the catch-up.
No, catch-up.
Oh, sorry.
I thought you were pointing at the media, you were pointing at things over there. No. What media have you... Things we've played, what have you done of those this week?
I played a little tiny game called The Survivor from Above.
Ooh, tell me more.
This is a cute little, 20-minute game, 20-minute game. You are, initially, you're on a little spaceship, avoiding, meteorites that are flying towards you, and eventually you get sort of struck by space lightning.
Yep.
And you crash down on this planet, and there's a huge chunk missing out of the back of your helmet.
Oh no.
Which is probably fine, right? Probably fine?
Probably fine.
Probably fine. You find your way into this, planetarium thing, and you play a version of the Flying Through the Space Asteroids game. Up to the point you are struck by lightning, and then you have to fight some claw things. A number of other things happen. Some of them are quite surreal.
Yeah.
There's a whole chase sequence, and then there's a whole thing about going to planets and mining and such. And it appears there's some sort of slave race of people who look just like you.
Okay.
Except they aren't missing chunks out of the back of their head.
And this is sort of artsy, surrealisty thing going on.
You play it in about 15 minutes, and it's free. It's available on Steam. They have 3 DLCs, which are basically just a way to donate if you enjoyed the game.
Okay,
which is quite a nice idea.
Yeah.
Just hey, if you liked it, maybe give it a look. What I thought was quite interesting is they are currently working on another game, which is kind of advertised in the game. If you start a second run, you will start near a billboard for the other game, which I thought was quite a sweet idea. But that game is specifically about going to tiny planets and mining them for resources.
I see.
Which felt like in this game was trying to say that was a bad thing.
Yeah, but, there's a little prologue. Then you get to do the bit on the other side, where it's more fun and less scary over there.
Maybe. But yeah, it's a fascinating little game. This is something that TikTok was like, hey, have you ever seen this? I was like, no, I haven't seen that, but it looks interesting as fuck. And it was. I enjoyed my time with it.
I played a pretty short video game this week that I thought was very interesting, but not necessarily the easiest recommend for everyone. I played a short horror game. It's maybe 2.5 hours long. Okay. Called Mouthwashing.
Oh, okay. I've heard about this from Casey. I've got this on my wish list.
I want to talk about this in as vague terms as I can to not be too spoilery about it. But Mouthwashing is an incredibly effective short horror experience. That, when you boil it all down, is about being trapped, and the many ways that the fear of being trapped can manifest.
Right.
You are set... The story is set on a cargo ship doing a lengthy trip through space.
That's pretty trapped feeling there.
Yeah, think something like the ship in Alien that's kind of a ragtag crew on a slow-moving thing that's feels like it's falling apart and you're probably having to patch it up constantly. And a crew of people who maybe have their own shit going on. And it is told out of order. It is a series of stories about a series of people in various ways being trapped. Because obviously, being on this ship going on this big long journey, obviously you can see how that's a setup for being trapped. Very early on, something goes wrong and the ship now is in a position of, we're probably not going to get where we're going when we were supposed to, and we are in the middle of nowhere enough that we might not get found and rescued.
Oops.
Feeling a bit more trapped. Without getting too much into it, it dabbles with a lot of takes on feeling trapped in a very short amount of time without any of them feeling rushed or glossed over. From feeling trapped in a medical context to being trapped with abusive people to being trapped by circumstance to being trapped in personal internal battles. It is a slow devolving horror narrative that, like, for me, the bit of it that is really effective is how it handles medical fear of being trapped. But it very much feels like the kind of game where, like, there is enough threads going on that might not be the thing that resonates for you as what is scary and elicits that feeling of feeling trapped, but something else might well do.
Right.
There is a lot of things that are like, yeah, that's a different... Sure, the fear of being, in a medical bay where you can't really communicate or no one's, seems to think you can communicate, not being able to move out of a bed and being reliant on other people is a fear. It's a very different fear from that person is drinking and I think they're going to become a problem. But both of them at their core are fears of being trapped in situations where you are helpless to stop what feels inevitable coming. It is a fascinating experience, some genuinely bloody incredible writing in places. There are so many little details about it that I want to get into the weeds at some point talking about, because it is incredibly smartly written. There is no wasted space in this, 2.5 hours of story. Very effective. I started playing it, got an hour in, and was like, I need to put this down and come back to it. I need to come back to this one day where I'm more ready for it, and I did, and it's incredibly effective for a thing that is not trying to rely on jump scares or needlessly, it's not enjoying lingering on suffering more than it needs to. It's not gratuitous. It is exactly as scary as it needs to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, really, really can recommend Mouthwashing, with the caveat of maybe look up some content warnings if you are unsure if it'll be for you. What about you? You played anything else this week?
I started playing the Mad Max open world game.
Oh, yeah, this one.
This is one that I remember when it came out. I feel like it got, critically panned.
It's one of those where it's it got a really mixed set of reviews. I would say, if anyone remembers No More Heroes and the kind of reviews that game got, it was very similar, where it's a lot of reviews were rating it very low, going, this is technically quite a bad game. And then other reviews were this is the best 7 out of 10 I've played in years. It was getting those kind of reviews, and I'm curious if that makes sense to you, having played it now.
Yeah, I mean, I've not played a lot of it, I don't feel like. I've gone through, most of the first couple of areas you can go to, and I feel like I've done most of the things in those 2 main areas, but it does still feel like there's a good chunk of game left.
Yeah.
The driving gets way better once you've managed to get a few upgrades. It is another one of those games that really wants you to do story stuff before you can start getting in and futzing around and doing stuff on your own.
Yeah.
You'll look at things like, oh, I want to do this upgrade, or you want to upgrade your vehicle in some particular way, and something will be like, oh no, you can't do that until you've done this story mission or that story mission. And it's please, I just want to play the way I want to play. Let me just do the things. No, you've got to do it in this order. It's okay, cool. The world is interesting. I think it's captured that, I don't remember Mad Max terribly well, but we watched Furiosa recently, and I get the concept of the world, that, it's post-apocalyptic and has, roaming gangs of people in very loud cars. There's war boys in it. I know them. I've seen them before. And, the driving has certainly got more enjoyable since I managed to do a few upgrades to the car that just made the handling better.
Yeah.
Because I think that was my biggest issue with it, sort of early game. It didn't feel particularly easy to steer, especially when it wants you to do, road combat.
Yeah.
And you're, trying to, side shunt cars.
It's got a little of that problem of not starting you at, a neutral starting point that you upgrade up from. It feels like some things are deliberately bad, and you have to upgrade to this is fine now status on a few of the things.
Yeah. It opens really exciting in a, really, dramatic manner. you are like basically you're captured by the main bad guy who like tries to like basically steal your car and take all your shit and then like tie you to the back of this rig and drag you through the desert. Naturally, you manage to pull yourself up on the back of the thing and with some sort of chainsaw staff manage to just like cut most of the way through this guy's head. And I have a suspicion that he's not dead somehow. He's going to be like a Chickenman, somehow still alive, and we're going to find that out later on in the game. Who can say? But I've got to a point where I am getting a bit more freedom and being able to do things, and I'm like specifically looking for tasks where I can go and pick up parts to build out the various bases that I've discovered. And I'm also like liberating areas so they are becoming places for people to just be, and that is getting me a healthy income of free scrap, which is helping me do more upgrades and things. But I'm not yet at a point where I'm getting so much of that income that it's made doing the general like hunt for scrap missions pointless, which I think is an important balance to have in something like that. Because once you do start getting steady income, it could be too easy to just go, oh yeah, you're just overburdened with scrap now and not enough things to spend it on. And I have no doubt that will probably come. But hopefully it will time itself nicely to sort of be near end game for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. I don't mind driving around and firing my harpoon at things and pulling down towers and tearing snipers off of walls and so forth. Yeah, it's been alright. What about you? What else have you played?
I finally made time to go back to Metaphor Refantasio.
Oh, yeah, you did?
Yeah, a big JRPG that I started playing when it released in, like, early October, and then Life is Strange and Dragon Age came out and kind of shunted it off my list for a bit, but I've made time to get back to it. So I'll talk about it fresh again, because it's been a while. This is a JRPG that is very much about the fact that stories of rising up against oppressive regimes often act as sort of pacifying elements in as much as it can be very fulfilling to watch a story about people standing up and rebelling against oppressive forces, but that feeling of fulfillment from watching that in media can sometimes make you not have the urge to do it in reality, and that those kind of stories will often not get into the complexities of what it actually means to see revolution and change.
Yeah.
It is a story about you playing as someone who's trying to break a curse to... There's a fight for who's going to be king of this nation currently going on, and you are trying to break a curse so that the prince, who should be the next ruler of the country, can rule the country. And that starts as an attempted political assassination of a fascist leader, who, with the prince not around, seems like he's going to be next in line for the throne. Explicitly, the story starts with, we need this man not to become in charge, and also we need to break the curse and get the prince out, but primarily we need to stop this fucking fascist from becoming a leader of our nation. Let's go on an assassination mission.
Right.
And it turns out that the king, before he died, put some magic in place that was like, hey, anyone who is a candidate for being the next ruler of the nation literally cannot be harmed. In order to try and stop political assassinations, for example, from being a thing that can interfere with the political process.
Right.
So it's trying to work out how to, without assassination being on the table now, how to prevent this person from rising into office. And what that ends up becoming for a big chunk of this game is, here is an RPG that is about you travelling around this world with thinly veiled fantasy bigotry going on, but it manages to not get bogged down in its, this is an equivalent to racism too much. It is very direct about travel around this world and get to know the people. Get to know the people of all the various backgrounds and understand not just what it is they're being oppressed over, but who they are as people, as cultures, what do they value, how do you square away what they believe with what other people, the next town over believe. going out and learning about the people of a land rather than going out to try and conquer that land. And trying to potentially be the next ruler of this kingdom by going out and listening to the people. The game is, like, I would say I'm probably, like, 75-80% of the way through, I would guess, at this point. And at times it is a bloated mess, at times it is inconsistently paced. There are decisions that I do not think are to its benefit mechanically, like, dungeons are very lengthy, and in the Persona games, this is from the creators of Persona, whenever you found, like, a save room in the middle of a dungeon, it would restore your magic points back up to full.
Right.
Does not happen here.
Oh.
So if you want to do a dungeon in a single sitting, you realistically are going to have to either be very cautious about your MP usage, or, like, use job classes that can slowly restore your MP.
Right.
There are some things that I don't mechanically love about it, but those are very much washed away by the fact that, like, the best way I can describe the moment-to-moment experience of this game is 1 minute you are fighting a living Hieronymus Bosch painting as a boss fight. The next you are having a conversation with a 7-year-old girl about how homeless people exist, and reassuring her, you are not going to end up homeless if you don't do enough jobs around the house for your adoptive mother. Homelessness is not a punishment for not working hard enough in life. The terrifying truth is that you might do all the right things and still end up homeless, but equally, if you love and trust the person you are living with, you don't have to do anything to not end up homeless. It is not a measure of moral worth, and trying to explain that in a way that is going to register to a small child.
Yes.
It is a game of very strong extremes, occasionally kind of wonkily paced.
Yes.
And I'm willing to put up with a lot of the jank that this game is for this exploration of, like, what are some themes that have come up recently? There was a whole plotline recently that basically boiled down to, you might find yourself in a position where the idea of assassinating a fascist political leader seems like the solution to the problems you are facing, but whether you succeed or whether you fail at attempting to assassinate a political figure, that will have consequences that very much stretch beyond whether that figure is alive or dead, and whether or not you are successful, you cannot put the genie back in the bottle that you attempted to solve your political choices that way, and you cannot quite predict the powder keg that will be. There was an entire plot thread that was about the church exerting power over the political process to try and force potential political candidates to go and round up religiously important artifacts from a fringe religion to be destroyed on behalf of the church. There is a lot of observation of the fact that often military and religion are driving factors in the political process and maybe have outsized power in who is ultimately likely to run a country, despite not necessarily being in line with what's best for the common person.
Right.
It's a fucking fascinating game where sometimes you're fighting a cracked chicken egg with legs with a little family of mice inside of it from that one weird surrealist painting.
The Garden of Earthly Delight.
Yeah, and the next, I don't know, you are dealing with the fact that it is not easy for someone to translate titles of nobility into actual help for the working class without a degree of sacrifice that requires the other people to respect that you are making that change, and that there are structures of power that will try and resist attempts to sacrifice nobility into the hands of the common people. Absolutely fascinating game that I do not think is great paced or mechanically all the time, but I don't care. It is a game I'm going to be thinking about for a long time.
I have to say, as someone who's not playing it and who doesn't really know what's going on, to watch you scroll through menus is just dizzying.
Yeah. I am able to go through them at a pace now because I've been playing this game for like 50, 60 hours.
Yeah.
Initially, it's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, to watch you do it, who obviously knows where you're going in a menu, and it just constantly flashes and swirls by. It's just like, I mean, it looks impressive, but I have no idea what the fuck just happened.
This is Atlas menu design. It is flashy, over-the-top, exaggerated anime nonsense happening.
I think, though, by virtue of being more colourful than something like Persona, it feels, as an outsider, way more confusing to look at. Because I remember you playing Persona 5 and just being like, yeah, that's showy.
Yeah.
But it's relatively followable.
Over time, I would say this is easier to navigate because you start building those association between the colours and the sections of menu.
Yeah.
But initially, it's a lot happening.
I can imagine.
But yeah, now that I'm back into it, I'm struggling to put it down again.
Excellent.
I did have a point today. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do a little bit of it, and then I had like a 2.5 hour section where there was no good opportunity to put the game down. I was like. Yep, sometimes RPGs are going to do this.
Yep, we've all been there with RPGs.
Yep. So that's Metaphor Fantasio. You've been playing anything else this week?
The only other thing I want to mention is I've been playing some more Warhammer Vermintide 2, which I talked about last week. I have. I've now played through the entire first campaign. And most of the subsequent freebie levels. I've also played a bunch of the Chaos Wastes, which is like a roguelite mode. You're just randomly dropped into different maps. They might not all be connected to each other, and there'll be like missions to like fight a particular number of enemies or a particular type of enemy. And you'll get like little boons and things that will only last for your run. So you're getting more and more powerful. You're collecting these pilgrim coins that basically act as a currency that you can spend at various shrines, either for just power-ups on their own or a chance to fight a boss and in turn get yet more shit. It's a really fun mode, and it's a great way of getting more more experience and stuff for characters if you want to build it up that way. My main problem with it has been just the sometimes you just have trouble with connections. Sometimes you'll just randomly you'll just find someone who's just decided they don't like you and they'll kick you, which means fun. You'll get if you've been doing a particular mission and you've got to a couple of levels and someone's just gone, I'm just going to kick you, or for whatever reason. You can end up losing all of the bonuses that you would have got, and maybe not even got any of the experience. So it's just that feels a bit meh. But that doesn't feel great. But I've played a few games with Lauren Yelling Imby of Fuel Tolerant News, and it's been fun to at least have one other person on that I know of, because it wasn't. I've talked last week about the fact that this is basically Left 4 Dead in a fantasy setting with rat people. And that was something I never had with Left 4 Dead 2. I never played with people I knew. So apart from the fact that Lauren is in the US and occasionally we'll just have just complete lag fests that don't really work. Apart from that, we have had many good sessions that have just been there's two of us and bots, and that's just fine. We don't have to deal with other people, which I always appreciate. Been enjoying more of that, and they've just released a new map for free, which I thought was nice. I don't know how old this game is, but it's always nice when they're still adding free shit later on, even though I think that the monetization system for this game is relatively predatory. And boo to them on that, I say.
Yeah.
That's it for me. Have you played anything else?
That's about it for me.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hello, welcome to my gaming marathon. I'm going to be spending a lot of time playing games and remaining as cozy as possible and staying in bed. This is my hibernation bedding stream. So yeah, keep those subs coming in, and I'll try and stay here all winter. Let's see how long we can keep this up. With this hype train, sleepy hype train, choo choo. Hey Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, have you heard of Heated Socks?
I have, yeah.
Heated gloves?
I have, yeah.
Heated hoodies?
Yeah.
Heated hats?
Yeah.
Well, how about trying out, at this chilly time of year, a nice heated merkin?
I'm sorry?
It's a cozy cot for your cooch. It's a winter warmer for your willy. It's a toasty treat for your tender meat. Order now and get a heated codpiece so you can be the most snug and swanky Shakespearean to tread the boards.
Aha!
That's heatedmerkins.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS Toasty Minge.
I hope they're well quality tested if I'm putting them that near my genitals.
And you can get 15% off your first order of a heated merkin.
I mean, that sure would be a place to be warm.
It is. I'm so toasty. Look at my ginger minge.
Oh, didn't know they sent you that colour.
Yeah, I was like fire. It's like a go faster minge now.
I see.
A go faster fanny. So, what have you put in your eyes?
I watched an interesting film this week.
Yes.
I watched a film called Conclave, which is a film in which a fictional pope has died, and all of the high-up figures of the church have to come together and basically get locked in a room with no awareness of the outside world until they can all vote with like a 60% majority who should be the next pope. And it is a story about a bunch of political drama and intrigue going on amongst this attempted battle for who's going to be the next pope, ranging from rumours of negative behaviour by some of the candidates and trying to like root out whether there's any truth to that while not able to verify anything with the outside world, to someone new showing up that there is a lot of mystery around, to all sorts of drama around various factions forming, trying to stop each other from, different sects of the religion sort of being the future of the church for a while. Not to be too spoilery about it, it is very much a film about the future of the church and trying to decide essentially whether exclusionary factors that are a bit, we don't like, traditionalist church members that want to sort of be like, ours is the only correct religion and we don't like X, Y, and Z muscling their way into the church. The kind of people who would be like, the idea of a woman pope would be absolutely unthinkable and would destroy the religion kind of people, versus a more open, progressive future for the church and what it might take to sway things one way or another. I was more sort of gripped by this than I expected to be. It for a film that is largely 100 church figures sat around having conversations, going and doing some scheming and investigating, sitting around voting again. It was very well paced in a way that had me like very invested in it. It was an enjoyable dramatic narrative, and I like the conclusions it draws at its finale, even if they maybe feel not really built up necessarily by the rest of the piece.
Right.
It was an interesting film that if I'd had it put on my desk as like, hey, what do you think of this? Is that there are things I would have notes about it, but in the moment I had a good time with it.
Hey.
What about you? What have you put in your eyes this week?
We watched a film together.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We watched an animated film called I Lost My Body.
We sure did.
This is a French anime about a hand that escapes from a fridge and goes on an odyssey to find the person they used to be attached to. And also a story about a young man who his parents are in an accident, and he ends up living with other people. I'm guessing like distant family or something.
Yeah,
based on like that whole thing. But like a lot of this film is unspoken.
Yeah. This is very much two very different films for most of its runtime concurrently happening.
Yes, because you've got the hand trying to just survive and get across across this city to get back to where it once belonged.
And a lot of that half is like very artsy and fascinatingly animated. There's a sequence where some spinning around creates a visual effect that was very well handled. Yes.
There's a sequence where the hand falls between I think it's trying to get on a train, and it falls off the platform down near the tracks and gets attacked by 3 rats. And it has to fend them off with a lighter it finds.
The hand is fascinatingly animated, gorgeously animated.
Yes.
But yeah, the other half of this film is person whose life kind of went a bit sideways and wants to fix his life, has a kind of creepy romance story with a girl.
It's not good.
There were points in it where I was like, well, you don't do that. If she finds out you did that, you're going to come across like a massive fucking creep.
Yeah, and then he does it and then tells her how romantic it is.
Yeah.
Which just feels very French.
There's a whole thing where he's like, he admits to how much of a creepy, manipulative man he has been. How much of a absolute archetypical cishet man he has been.
And then he's like, oh, but it was so gallant, don't you think?
It's like, oh, I think that was rather gallant of me.
No,
that
sir.
was fucking serial killer stalker behaviour, sir.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Yes, this is why we choose the bear.
And it was so unnecessary. Nothing forced him into any of that.
He was the least likable thing about that.
He was the architect of everything he deserved going wrong to him.
True, although, like, his person he was sharing a room with and the head of that whole household both seemed kind of dickish as well.
Oh, for sure. But also, he didn't need to put himself in any of the bad events that came to him.
No.
And I will say this. I think my biggest disappointment with this film is that when the two halves inevitably come together, it is a little out of nowhere. It's not terribly built up to.
I mean, it makes sense for what has happened. Almost as if they've decided that the point of this film is it's about a man who loses his hand after having been through some shit in his life. And it is the key moment where hand reaches person is literally the day after he has lost his hand.
It logically, the events logically make sense and are justified, but thematically it feels like there is very little through line. There's nothing thematically that sets up the ending, even if, yes, technically there's nothing unreasonable about the events.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I didn't hate it. There were some beautiful sequences.
There were some genuinely beautiful sequences in it. There were some moments where it was a very beautiful film, and some moments where I was like,
why are men?
Why are men? Why are men? Did anyone watch this film and go, maybe that's not a particularly engaging protagonist happening right there? Maybe we would cheer for this man to not have a hand at moments.
I don't know about that,
but actually no. I correct myself. I wish I'd hated him enough to cheer for him to lose his hand. I wish I felt strongly enough either way about him losing his hand. Yeah, that's the thing. He's a dick, but he's not such a dick I want him to lose his hand.
No.
I felt my only feeling in it happening was I'm going to wince about the fact it's going to happen, but I feel nothing emotionally about it happening.
Yes. And there was that moment where we knew it was going to happen, and we were just doing the whole, we started talking about Furiosa, going back to Mad Max again, talking about Furiosa and that, we knew she was going to lose the arm at some point during the film.
Yep.
But when is it going to happen? It's like, oh, it's happening right now, huh? They are really teasing this moment.
They sure did make an experience with this film.
They did.
There were times where I quite enjoyed it, and times where I was just fed up with men. There were times where this film's entire experience was reminding me why, no thank you, man.
I'm glad I watched it. I couldn't necessarily recommend it.
Agreed.
Beyond going, watch the scene where the hand tries to cross the freeway with an umbrella.
Yeah.
And there's a an astronaut for some reason.
Yeah, it is fascinating, but I wouldn't say spend your time watching it in the same way as I felt about something like Megalopolis earlier this year. Sometimes the things like, it's fascinating. I'm not going to tell you to watch it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't tell people to watch Megalopolis.
No. But yeah, you watched anything else this week?
Yeah, I watched season 3 of Bluey. I watched 50 episodes of Bluey in an afternoon.
That is an amount of Bluey.
It's a lot of Bluey.
It's a lot of Bluey. How that Bluey being?
Once again, I am confused by people who are really dicks about adults who watch Bluey.
Right.
Because there are so many, like, important emotional things in there, and things that, like, maybe kids are never going to get, but are very important to, probably to a lot of the adults watching. Like, I'm thinking of, like, Auntie Brandy. There's an episode with Auntie Brandy, and, like, nothing is directly spoken, but you can tell that she is unable to have children of her own, and that is, like, a big sticking point of why she hasn't seen the girls.
Yeah, the unspoken subtext of, I don't visit my friend anymore because my friend has kids, and as much as I love that she has kids, it makes me really sad about the fact that I physically can't, and it's putting the thing I can't have in front of me.
Yeah, there's a beautiful moment where Bingo's just being a complete menace in a tiger onesie, and she's basically mauled Auntie Brandy and then run off. And there's a moment where she just goes from, like, laughing about the fact she's just been attacked by a child, and that it was quite a sweet moment, to being like, she just sort of reaches out in POV towards Bingo running away, and it's like, oh, my heart.
Yeah. You know, for every episode that is, you know, here's the kids running around scribbling on the iPad trying to run away from parents, there'll be one that's like...
that episode of Muffin is amazing.
Right, but, you know, you'll have one episode that's that, and then you'll have one that's like, hey... This is an episode in which, during a group of 3 children playing make-believe about being on a spaceship, one of them keeps role-playing being left behind and abandoned by the spaceship, and maybe this kid is trying to resolve some, like, unresolved childhood trauma about an experience that ultimately they were safe in as a child, but that, like...
There was a moment they felt extreme peril.
Yeah, there was a moment that made them feel abandoned, and they're trying to work through a feeling they don't really have words for.
Yes.
Via the medium of throwing themselves into a fictional black hole.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a beautiful show. It's, I look forward to seeing more of it. I've been seeing clips on TikTok recently of new episodes, so I don't know if there is, like, new stuff happening that I've somehow missed, or, like, stuff from season 2 I've just forgotten.
I believe there is a 4th season.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like, I remember a while ago seeing, like, hey, this is the complete Bluey season 3, and I remember watching that, and then coming back to it more recently and going, yeah, season 3 goes up to episode 50 now, don't worry about it. It's just like, okay, I thought it only went up to 38, but I guess I'll keep going.
Yep.
But, yeah, I really enjoy Bluey, and I think it is a good show for parents, for kids.
It is a very sweet and amusing and, at times, real gut-wrenchy little show, that.
Yes, yeah. What about you? Have you watched anything else?
Not really. It's been a play-heavy week for catching up on stuff for work.
Mm-hmm.
You put anything else in your eyes?
That's it for me.
Well then, time for this.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've got a new money-making idea.
I love money.
I know, right? Money's the fucking best.
Yeah.
So, you know how we started a while ago doing that whole thing where it's like, play the game several days early if you pay us money?
Yeah.
Even though we had the, like, play it day one on our subscription service and now pay to play it before day one.
Yeah.
And, like, we didn't have nearly as much pushback to that as I expected we would.
Yeah, we have apparently broken their will.
Right, and I thought, in the spirit of having broken their will, let's break it further. What if next time we have, like, a patch that fixes, common bugs that people are experiencing,
right,
that people are being, like, desperate for bug fixes for,
right,
we offer them pay extra to get the bug fixes early. Early access bug patches.
You are are fucking genius.
I know, right?
We're going to make so much money.
Just tell the team downstairs to put a couple of extra bugs in just so we got excuses.
Oh, of course. Yeah. We got to milk this. And then we could even have, like, early access to the bug fixes. You can pay $10 and get it 5 days early. You can pay $20 and get it 7 days early. And you can be the least buggy person on all of the game.
There's literally no limit.
Limitless money. That's what I like to hear.
This is a public service announcement.
An announcement for the public.
What do you say if you see a person stealing food from a supermarket?
I didn't see a thing.
See someone stealing baby supplies from a national store chain?
I didn't see a thing.
See a billionaire getting an impromptu guillotining in the street in broad daylight?
I didn't see a thing, and I certainly didn't bring popcorn.
Remember, if you see something, say nothing.
I didn't see a thing. Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah. All right, Larry.
Right, Mary. How you doing?
Oh, not bad, mate, not bad. You doing all right?
Oh, doing all right. Been mildly fascinated watching the fallout from that healthcare CEO that got shot the other week.
Yeah, well, I didn't see nothing.
Well, I didn't see nothing either. No, I didn't see nothing, hear nothing.
No.
Well, I didn't see nothing, say nothing to do with him, but I did see some stuff. To do with responses to how that went down.
There were some great memes.
Sorry, information on that shooter is not in my my coverage on my account.
Yeah.
My premiums don't allow me to tell you that, etc.
Yeah.
But I did see a thing that's been interesting, which was some real, let's call it class solidarity popping up around it.
Yeah, I don't think the right are quite willing to go all the way, but it certainly has been interesting watching comments from, certainly right-wing news sources trying to push this as, the left, how violent the left are, cheering on the death of a person, only to be met by their own audiences going, well, actually, I don't think this is a problem of left versus right. I think this is a problem of the billionaires versus the rest of us.
It was the one that I found amusing is I went and looked at Ben Shapiro's videos where talking about it.
Well, I didn't look at the videos, but I have seen reposts of that.
Yeah. I was like, is it genuinely as chock full as it seems to be? It is all American flag profile pictures going, actually, Mr. Shapiro, I think you're a bit off base by claiming that this is like, a left versus right issue. Like, just so many American flags being like, actually, it's
healthcare does suck in this country.
It does suck in this country. We could probably agree with the left on this one.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's been interesting, is seeing whether a lot of these people will say it or not, something that has, for a brief moment, united people as far left and as far right politically in America as is roughly possible.
Yeah, just an inkling of class consciousness, just sparkling in the night.
And, I saw some very good conversations before the shooter's information was known.
Yeah.
Saying something to the effect of, when that shooter is found, regardless of what his background actually is, you're going to see news reports trying to turn left versus right against each other over the matter of, was he one of yours, was he one of ours, do we stand behind him, do you stand behind him?
Is he a troubled young man or a radical leftist terrorist?
Well, he did this for right-leaning reasons, or,
I doubt Fox News would even bring up the right wing. That really troubled young man.
Yeah, but the point I saw made at the time, and I think is an important point, is, to a certain degree, it does not matter. Yeah. In as much as this is an incredibly rare moment of American politics where the left and the right can both agree. A lot of people feel no guilt, feeling joy at the death of this CEO, because fundamentally, people across the political spectrum feel fucked over by the healthcare industry, to the point that they would perhaps cheer on a killer.
And that maybe that is something where, regardless of any other factors about that killing, you put the killer aside, you don't think about the killer, you go, maybe this is a point where both sides of the political spectrum could come together and go, there is clearly something we agree we want to change, and we could both fight for being changed by the establishment for the betterment of people across the spectrum.
Yeah, what if we could get the kind of conservatism we used to have years ago, where it was just like we want things. When you would occasionally get right wingers who would be like, actually, we will stand up for what I believe is right, rather than just what is right wing.
Indeed.
And dragged into this Christo-fascist nonsense that we're getting now. The Project 2025s, 18 billionaires in Trump's cabinet.
And that's the thing. I don't know how achievable it is, but I do think there is real value in going. Maybe as more information becomes available, don't focus so much on, do you stand with everything that person did and everything they were outside of it, and go, let's not lose sight of the fact that there is something that we can both agree needs to be changed, and that makes it not a left versus right, but a the people versus those in power. Because that is the kind of shift you need to have in thought process for things to actually change. And like we have seen, some genuine fear in the healthcare CEO class.
Well, not just healthcare CEOs. We saw Elon using his child as a human shield like 2 days later.
But specifically, like the billionaire class, I don't think it was the fact that this specific man got shot that was scaring them. It was that the general populace was going, good, that billionaire deserved it, and was having unity. There's that clip from the movie Ants that's been doing A Bug's Life that's been doing the rounds, where it's like... there
are many, many more of us than you.
Yeah, exactly. It is. We got to pit them against each other, because if they realise there's more of them than us, then we're fucked. And, it's been an interesting one.
Yeah, I see the point. I've also seen people pushing back on that particular reference, but it reminds me of a meme from years ago that I've been sort of seeing versions of resurfacing recently of what the billionaire class, what the CEOs have conveniently forgotten is the agreement we made many years ago of we will not turn up at the landowner's house and murder them in front of their family, is that they treated us with respect and gave us, holidays and weekends and so forth.
Yeah.
Rather than, working us to death.
Yep.
Like we're medieval serfs.
Yep. Also, this is a side note, but this is just a reference that amused me. Was I saw an image earlier today that was the opening of the movie The Incredibles, where Mr. Incredible is holding his boss, the CEO of a healthcare company, squeezing him by the neck and holding him up off the floor, because this healthcare CEO has been an unconscionable monster denying healthcare access to a little old lady who needs it.
Yeah.
And this is the start of Mr. Incredible's journey back to being a hero. He's holding a healthcare CEO by the neck with his huge hands. Just something amusing to think about.
I'm not naturally a violent person, but also I think that it is about time that something happens to put the fear into the people who basically treat us as, grist for their mill.
Indeed. So, anything else that happens, maybe recognise an opportunity for some class solidarity going on here, and try and bring that unified power to do something about the current state of American healthcare.
Yeah, stop being distracted by the enemies that they paint for you on the political opposite side, and maybe look up.
Yeah.
Fancy hug, mate.
Oh yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug. Right, I think we'll have a nice night down.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Nice. So, Laura,
Yes?
you do things on the internet, right?
I do, yeah.
You do them, and people would like them.
Ooh.
And where can they find them?
At Laura K. Buzz, pretty much everywhere on the internet. Laura K. Buzz on Blue Sky, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere you find people, you find me at Laura K. Buzz.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you're going to find from me in the coming weeks because it's December and my output's going to be a little wonky as I take a bit of time off.
This is the penultimate quips of the year as well.
Yeah, it's working on some bigger things that are going to take a bit of time, plus also taking some time off. So look forward to stuff. Just maybe not so much of it in the latter half of December. Mm-hmm. What about you, dear?
Well, I don't have the unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find the music I've made, t-shirts I've designed. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. And as little as $1 a month really helps, especially at this time of year when everybody's running away. So that's me. So Laura,
yeah,
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time. Be a stranger.